In a quiet corner of a bustling city, there was a tiny tailoring shop that most people passed by without even noticing. Its wooden sign was faded, the paint chipped in several places, and the window glass was dusty. Inside, the shop was small but cozy, filled with the smell of fabric, thread, and a hint of old leather from worn-out chairs. The walls were lined with shelves stacked with neatly folded cloths of all colors and textures. A single sewing machine sat in the middle, humming quietly as it stitched the fabric under the steady hands of its owner, a humble tailor. The tailor was a man who had spent his whole life mastering his craft. He was not rich, nor did he come from a family of wealth. His hands were rough, scarred from years of working with needles and scissors, but they moved with skill and care. Every stitch he made was precise, every cut measured, every fold intentional. He took pride in his work, not because it made him famous, but because he knew that even the simplest piece of clothing could look perfect if made with dedication. Life had never been easy for him. From a young age, he had watched his family struggle to make ends meet. He had learned that hard work mattered more than luck, and he had chosen his profession because it allowed him to create something meaningful every day. The shop he owned was small, and his income barely covered his rent and food. Still, he never complained. He found joy in the little things: the sound of the sewing machine, the softness of new fabric, and the smile of a satisfied customer. That morning, the city outside was alive with movement. Vendors were shouting from their stalls. Cars honked impatiently in the traffic, and people hurried to their offices, shops, and schools. The tailor had already started his day before sunrise. He had ironed the few pieces of clothing he had finished the day before and arranged them neatly on a rack. Today, he had only a few customers scheduled, mostly locals who trusted him to mend their old garments or adjust their everyday clothes. As he worked, he hummed a tune under his breath, a melody he had known since childhood. The sound of the sewing machine mixed with his voice, creating a rhythm that filled the tiny shop. He didn't notice the people walking by outside, nor did he care. The world could rush past as it pleased. Inside, he had his craft, and that was enough. Suddenly, the quiet of the morning was broken by the roar of an engine. The sound was unusual, loud and commanding, unlike the cars that usually passed the narrow street. The tailor paused and looked up, curious. Through the dusty window, he saw a sleek black car pulling up in front of his shop. It gleamed in the sunlight, polished to perfection, a stark contrast to the worn buildings surrounding it. The car door opened, and out stepped a man in an elegant suit. His presence was commanding. He walked with confidence, his shoes clicking against the pavement with a rhythm that demanded attention. The tailor recognized him immediately. He was the CEO of one of the largest companies in the city, a man whose name appeared in newspapers and magazines, whose face was familiar on television screens. He had everything the tailor could only dream of: wealth, influence, and a life of comfort. And now he was standing at the door of this tiny shop, looking around as if searching for something. The tailor's heart skipped a beat. He had never imagined that someone like this would ever step inside his shop. He straightened his back, wiped his hands on his apron, and tried to look calm, though his mind raced. What could the CEO possibly want here? Had he been walking by and noticed the shop, or was it something else entirely? The CEO's eyes scanned the room quickly, taking in the shelves of fabric, the sewing machine, and the small counter piled with threads and buttons. Then his gaze landed on the tailor, and he approached without hesitation. His expression was serious, but there was a hint of urgency in his eyes. "I need your help," the CEO said, his voice firm, but not unkind. "There's a small problem with my suit, and I need it fixed immediately." The tailor felt a surge of nerves. His mind raced, thinking of all the ways he could impress or fail this man. He tried to stay composed. "Of course, sir," he replied, his voice steady despite the tremor he felt inside. "Please show me the suit and I'll see what I can do." The CEO reached into his jacket and pulled out the fabric. It was a luxurious suit, clearly very expensive, but there was a small tear along the seam of the jacket and a button missing from the cuff. For most people, it would have been a minor flaw, easily overlooked. But the CEO's day was full of important meetings, and his appearance mattered. He handed the suit to the tailor and looked at him with expectant eyes. The tailor examined the damage carefully. His fingers brushed over the fabric, feeling the delicate threads and the quality of the material. He nodded slowly. "I can fix this," he said confidently. "It will take a little time, but I can make it look perfect again." The CEO's brow furrowed. "I don't have much time," he said. There's an important meeting in less than an hour. Can you manage it? The tailor swallowed hard. He had never been asked to fix something under such pressure, especially not a suit of this caliber. But he could not let this opportunity pass. He nodded firmly.
I'll do my best, sir.
Please, leave it with me and I'll have it ready as quickly as possible. With that, the CEO handed over the suit and took a seat on the small chair near the counter. The tailor set to work immediately. He measured the torn seam, selected a matching thread, and began stitching with precision. His hands moved quickly but carefully, aware that any mistake could ruin the suit and disappoint the man who had trusted him. As he worked, the tailor felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He had repaired clothes for years, but never under such scrutiny, never for someone whose entire world seemed so far removed from his own. He reminded himself to focus, to let his skill guide him, and to take pride in his work as he always did. The CEO watched silently, occasionally shifting in his chair but mostly observing the tailor with curiosity. He had expected a small repair, perhaps a quick fix, but he was surprised by the tailor's dedication. Every stitch was deliberate, every movement careful. There was an attention to detail that spoke of true craftsmanship, something the CEO had rarely seen in his life of luxury and speed. Minutes passed, and the tailor worked tirelessly. He replaced the missing button on the cuff, reinforced the torn seam, and pressed the suit carefully to restore its shape. Sweat gathered on his brow, but he did not stop. He knew that this was more than a suit. It was an opportunity to show that skill, honesty, and hard work mattered more than wealth or status. Finally, he stepped back and held the suit out to the CEO. "Here it is, sir," he said, his voice a mixture of pride and nervousness. "It's ready." The CEO took the suit and examined it closely. His eyes widened slightly as he ran his fingers along the seam and the buttons. The tear was gone, the cuff looked flawless, and the jacket seemed to have regained its original elegance. He tried it on, adjusting it over his shoulders, and looked at himself in the small mirror on the wall. This is perfect," he said, his tone filled with genuine surprise. "I didn't expect it to look this good." The tailor smiled faintly, relieved. "I'm glad it meets your expectations, sir," he replied simply. For a moment there was silence in the shop, a quiet that felt heavy with meaning. The CEO's eyes met the tailor's, and he saw something unexpected: pride, humility, and a rare kind of honesty. He realized that this man, so different from the people he usually encountered, had poured his heart into something as simple as a suit repair. And yet in that act he had shown a kind of greatness that money could never buy. The tailor, meanwhile, felt a strange sense of fulfillment. He had always believed in his craft, but never had he imagined that it could touch someone from a world so different from his own. He realized that this moment, simple as it seemed, was the beginning of something significant, a turning point in a life that had been quiet and ordinary for so long. The CEO handed him an envelope, thick with cash, but the tailor shook his head. "No, sir," he said politely. "The suit is all the reward I need. I'm just happy I could help." The CEO smiled, a rare, genuine smile that softened the stern lines of his face. "You have a gift," he said, "and the world deserves to see it." The tailor nodded, unsure what the future would bring, but feeling a spark of hope he hadn't felt in years. He had only fixed a suit, yet somehow it felt like he had fixed something far greater: his own confidence, his own belief that hard work and honesty mattered in a world that often overlooked them. As the CEO left, the tailor watched him go, his heart beating fast. Outside, the city continued its hurried pace, but inside the tiny shop, time seemed to stand still. He returned to his sewing machine, his hands ready to create, his mind alive with possibilities. Something had changed that day. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that he had taken the first step toward it, one careful stitch at a time. And so the humble tailor went back to his work, unaware that this simple act of helping a stranger in need would soon lead to a chain of events that would transform his life forever. The day after the CEO had left the tiny shop, the tailor woke early, as he did every morning, with a quiet determination to start his work. Sunlight streamed through the dusty window, casting long shadows across the floor, and the familiar hum of the sewing machine greeted him like an old friend. But today something felt different. The memory of the previous day, the sleek black car, the suited figure, the urgent request lingered in his mind. It was as if the air in the shop held a new weight, one that carried possibility and change. He began his day as usual, tidying up the few clothes waiting to be repaired and folding fabrics neatly onto the shelves. Customers trickled in, some to collect finished pieces, others to ask for minor alterations. The tailor greeted them all with a smile, but his mind wandered. He kept replaying the CEO's visit in his head, the careful way he had examined the repaired suit, the brief yet genuine praise, the words that hinted at something more than just a business transaction. He realized that in his life such recognition had been rare. People often came to him only when they needed repairs or adjustments, but no one had ever truly noticed the skill and dedication he poured into his work. And here was a man from a world so distant from his own, someone who had everything, yet had taken the time to appreciate the craft of a simple tailor. The day passed slowly, and by late morning, the tailor's curiosity became too strong to ignore. He wondered about the CEO's life, imagining the offices, the meetings, and the countless decisions that shaped the city. He wondered what it felt like to live in a world of luxury and influence, so far removed from the quiet routines of his shop. And yet, despite the differences, he felt a strange connection, a sense that their brief encounter had bridged two very different worlds, if only for a moment. Just as he was closing up for a short break, the bell above the shop door rang. He looked up, expecting perhaps a regular customer or a passerby, but instead he saw the CEO standing there again. The man looked slightly less formal than the day before, his tie loosened, his jacket draped over one arm. He smiled, and there was a warmth in his expression that the tailor hadn't noticed before. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," the CEO said, his tone friendly. "I just wanted to see you again and thank you in person for yesterday." The tailor felt a flush of surprise. "It's no trouble at all," he replied humbly. "I'm glad I could help." The CEO stepped inside, glancing around the small shop. "I couldn't stop thinking about how you worked on my suit," he said. "You were focused, careful, and dedicated. It made me realize how rare it is to see someone take pride in their work these days." The tailor felt a mix of embarrassment and pride. He was used to quiet acknowledgement, not such direct praise from someone of the CEO's stature. "I just do my best," he said softly. "Every piece deserves attention." The CEO nodded, looking thoughtful. "That's exactly what impressed me. I see so many people rush through things, caring more about appearances than substance. You reminded me that skill, patience, and honesty still exist." For a moment, the shop felt quiet, as if the city outside had paused to listen. The tailor realized that this man was not just expressing gratitude. He was observing, truly observing, and valuing what he saw. It was a rare moment of connection, one that transcended money, status, and social boundaries. "I was thinking," the CEO continued, "that someone with your talent shouldn't be confined to this little shop. There are people who would pay well for your work, who would recognize it. Have you ever considered showing your skills to a wider audience?" The tailor shook his head. I never thought it was possible," he admitted. "I'm just a tailor trying to make a living, nothing more." The CEO smiled knowingly. "Sometimes the people who achieve the most are those who never expect it. Talent like yours deserves to be seen. I would like to help you if you'll allow me." The tailor's heart raced. He had spent years dreaming quietly, imagining what it would be like if his work were appreciated beyond the neighborhood, if people truly recognized his skill. But such thoughts often seemed foolish, distant, and unattainable. Now a man who had the power and connections to make it real was offering a chance. I don't know what to say," he murmured, unsure if he was dreaming or awake. "Say you'll consider it," the CEO replied gently. "I'm not asking for a decision today. Just think about it. Sometimes all it takes is one step to change everything." Over the next few days, the tailor couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. Every time he worked on a shirt, a jacket, or a pair of pants, his mind wandered to the CEO's words. Could it really be possible for someone like him to reach beyond this small shop? Could he step into a world so different from the one he had known all his life? The questions were daunting, yet thrilling. Life in the shop continued as usual. Customers came and went, and the tailor treated each one with the same care and attention as always. But now there was a new energy in his work. He stitched with renewed confidence, cut fabric with a sense of purpose, and handled each piece as if it were the most important item in the world. It was as if the CEO's recognition had unlocked something inside him, a belief in his own worth and the value of his craft. One afternoon, while the tailor was pressing a newly finished suit, a local reporter entered the shop. She had heard rumors about a skilled tailor who had repaired an expensive suit for a city CEO and wanted to learn more. She asked questions, took notes, and snapped a few pictures. The tailor, though uncomfortable with attention, answered politely, explaining his craft, his love for sewing, and the simple joys of his work. The article appeared a few days later in a local newspaper. It was short but powerful, highlighting the tailor's skill, dedication, and humility. It mentioned the CEO's visit and praised the tailor's honesty and craft. The story spread quickly, and suddenly, people from outside the neighborhood began visiting the shop. Some wanted minor repairs, while others came hoping to commission custom suits, inspired by the story they had read. The tailor was overwhelmed at first. The small shop was not prepared for the sudden influx of customers. He worked long hours, often staying late into the night, but he did so with determination and a quiet joy. Each person who left the shop satisfied was a reminder that his work mattered, that his skill had value beyond what he had ever imagined. Meanwhile, the CEO continued to check in discreetly. He sent assistants with clients who needed tailoring services, subtly promoting the tailor's work without making it feel like an advertisement. The tailor began receiving orders from people he had never met, clients who were willing to pay well for his talent. Slowly, his life began to shift. The small shop that had once struggled to survive was now filled with activity, energy, and hope. Despite the growing success, the tailor remained humble. He remembered the days when he had little, when each coin mattered, when his hands were worn and tired. He treated every customer with respect, every garment with care, and every opportunity as a gift. He did not let the attention or the sudden influx of wealth change who he was. His joy came from the craft itself, from the feeling of creating something perfect, and from knowing that his work could make a difference in someone's life. One evening, after a long day, the tailor sat in his shop, exhausted but satisfied. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow through the window. He reflected on how much had changed in just a few days, how a single act, helping fix a suit, had started a chain of events that he could never have predicted. And yet amidst all the change, he felt a quiet peace. He had stayed true to himself, to his craft, and that was what mattered most. The CEO's influence continued to grow subtly. He invited the tailor to small gatherings, introducing him to influential people who valued quality and integrity. The tailor met designers, business owners, and clients who appreciated his skill and vision. Each encounter was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to expand his craft. The tailor absorbed everything, eager to improve, but always remaining grounded in his humble beginnings. As the days turned into weeks, the tailor's reputation spread beyond the city. Orders came from other towns, people seeking his work based on the CEO's quiet recommendations and the newspaper article that had gone viral online. The tailor's small shop was no longer just a local business. It had become a symbol of skill, dedication, and honesty, a reminder that talent and hard work could shine through, no matter where one started. Despite all the attention, the tailor never forgot the day it all began, the day the CEO had walked into his shop needing help with a suit. That moment had been simple, unremarkable on the surface, but it had sparked a journey that would forever change his life. He realized that sometimes the smallest actions, the quietest moments, could have the greatest impact. Helping a stranger, doing one's best work, and staying true to oneself could open doors that no one imagined. And so, the tailor continued his work, sewing each stitch with care, folding each fabric with pride, and greeting each customer with warmth. He knew that his life was changing, that opportunities were growing, and that the world was beginning to notice him. But more importantly, he knew that the foundation of his success was not money, fame, or influence. It was honesty, skill, and the unwavering belief that even the smallest act, done with heart, could change everything. The tailor's journey had only just begun. He had taken the first. The tailor's life had begun to change in ways he could never have imagined. The small shop, once quiet and lonely, was now filled with a steady flow of customers, each one drawn by the story of a humble tailor who had fixed the suit of the city's most powerful man. Yet even with all the activity, the tailor remained the same quiet, hard-working man who had always found joy in the simple act of creating. The CEO's visits had become more frequent, though always discreet. He would drop by with a warm smile, checking in on how the shop was doing and how the tailor was managing the growing number of orders. Sometimes he brought along a friend or associate who had a special request, subtly introducing them to the tailor's work without making it feel like a business transaction. Each visit was a quiet lesson for the tailor, not in fashion or wealth, but in trust, humility, and the power of quiet support. One afternoon, as the tailor was measuring fabric for a custom suit, the CEO walked in holding a folded piece of paper in his hand. The tailor looked up and greeted him politely, curious about the purpose of the visit. "I have something for you," the CEO said, handing over the paper. "It's an invitation." The tailor's brow furrowed as he examined the envelope. It was elegant, made of thick paper, and bore the logo of a well-known business gala. He opened it carefully, and as he read the contents, his eyes widened. You want me to attend this?" he asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and excitement. The CEO nodded. "Yes, there will be business leaders, designers, and clients from all over. It's an opportunity for people to see your work, and for you to meet others who value skill and dedication. I think it's time the world sees what you can do." The tailor felt a rush of emotions. Pride, fear, excitement, and nervousness all mixed together in a whirlwind inside him. He had never imagined stepping into such a world. His life had always been small, contained within the walls of his shop. Yet here was an opportunity that could open doors he had never dared to knock on. I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted honestly. The CEO smiled gently. "You are ready. You've already proven that your work speaks for itself. And remember, I'll be there. You won't be alone." In the days leading up to the gala, the tailor worked tirelessly. He prepared a selection of his finest creations, carefully choosing fabrics, colors, and designs that reflected his skill and dedication. Each stitch was made with extra care, each fold and seam examined multiple times. He wanted to make an impression, not for fame or recognition, but to show the world the heart and effort he put into every piece of clothing. Despite the growing pressure, he remained humble. He reminded himself of where he came from, of the years spent perfecting his craft in the quiet solitude of his small shop. He knew that success was not measured by applause or attention, but by the care and love he put into his work. Finally, the day of the gala arrived. The tailor dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet elegant outfit that reflected his personal style. The CEO arrived to escort him, and together they entered the grand hall filled with chandeliers, polished floors, and the soft murmur of conversations among the city's elite. At first, the tailor felt overwhelmed. The room was vast, filled with people in designer clothes, carrying themselves with confidence and authority. He felt like a small figure in a world that moved at a pace far faster than his own. But the CEO's presence reassured him. With a gentle nod, the CEO guided him through introductions, subtly highlighting the tailor's work and encouraging conversations without putting him on the spot. People were immediately drawn to the tailor, curious about the man behind the story they had heard. They asked questions about his craft, his techniques, and his inspirations. The tailor spoke honestly, explaining how he had learned his skills over years of practice, the importance of patience, and the value of putting one's heart into every piece. He did not boast or exaggerate. He simply shared his journey, and that honesty resonated with everyone who listened. By the middle of the evening, the tailor began to feel a quiet confidence. He realized that the same qualities that had defined his life, dedication, honesty, and skill, were exactly what people admired. Wealth, status, and showiness mattered little in comparison. He saw the CEO watching him from across the room, a faint smile on his face, and felt a surge of gratitude. This man had opened a door, yes, but the tailor had stepped through it on his own, guided by the very values he had always held. One of the most influential designers at the gala approached him, fascinated by the meticulous work on the sample suits the tailor had brought. "Your attention to detail is extraordinary," the designer said. "The way you handle fabric, the precision of your stitching, it's rare to see someone with such dedication. Have you ever considered expanding your work beyond a single shop?" The tailor smiled modestly. "I have thought about it," he admitted, "but I never imagined it could be possible. I've spent my life learning and practicing, but never for attention or recognition." The designer nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the work itself is enough to open doors. People recognize talent when they see it. You've been given an opportunity, and I hope you take it. The world needs skilled hands like yours." The tailor left the conversation feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that his life had changed not because of luck or chance alone, but because he had chosen to approach each task with integrity and care. The same approach that had guided him in his small shop had now caught the attention of people with influence, and he could feel new possibilities unfolding. As the evening progressed, the CEO introduced him to more business leaders, clients, and designers. Each introduction was carefully crafted to give the tailor space to speak, to show his work, and to let his talent shine without pressure. People were impressed not only by his skill but by his humility, the quiet confidence that came from years of dedication. By the end of the night, the tailor had received multiple requests for commissions, invitations to showcase his work, and even offers to collaborate with established designers. He was exhausted yet exhilarated. His small shop, once confined to a single neighborhood, now had the potential to reach clients across the city and beyond. The CEO walked beside him as they left the gala. "You did well," he said softly. "I told you that your work would speak for itself. All you had to do was stay true to who you are." The tailor nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said sincerely. "You gave me the chance to be seen, and that made all the difference." The CEO shook his head. "I didn't give you anything you didn't already have. Your skill, your dedication, and your honesty, that's what brought people to you. I simply helped the world notice it." In the days that followed, the tailor's life continued to evolve. Orders poured in from clients who had attended the gala or heard about his work through word of mouth. He began hiring a small team to help manage the growing demand, teaching them the same values he held dear: patience, care, and the love of creating something perfect. Despite the changes, he remained grounded. He never forgot the days when his shop was quiet, when each coin mattered, and when his only reward was the satisfaction of a job well done. He treated every customer with respect, every garment with attention, and every opportunity as a gift. The CEO continued to support him quietly, offering guidance, introductions, and advice when needed. But the tailor realized that his success was no longer dependent on anyone else. He had found his confidence, his voice, and his place in a wider world. Months later, the tailor reflected on his journey while working on a custom suit for a prominent client. The memory of the first day the CEO had walked into his shop remained vivid. That simple act of trust and recognition had set in motion a chain of events that had transformed his life. He realized that opportunities often come disguised as small, ordinary moments, and that the choices we make in those moments can define our future. The tailor smiled quietly as he stitched the last button onto the suit. He knew that his journey was far from over. There would be challenges, mistakes, and moments of doubt, but he also knew that he had the skill, the dedication, and the integrity to face them. And perhaps most importantly, he understood that success was not measured by wealth or recognition alone, but by the care, effort, and honesty we put into everything we do. He looked out of the window at the busy street below, the city alive with movement, sound, and possibility. He knew that he had stepped into a world that was once beyond his imagination, and he was ready to embrace it fully, guided by the same values that had always defined him. And so, the tailor continued to work, to create, and to grow. Each stitch was a reminder of where he came from, each suit a testament to his skill, and each opportunity a sign that sometimes a single act of kindness or trust can change a life forever. Life for the tailor had begun to change in ways he had never imagined. The small shop that once echoed with the quiet hum of his sewing machine now buzzed with activity from morning to evening. Customers lined up outside, eager to have their clothes repaired or commissioned from the tailor whose skill had caught the attention of the city's most influential people. Though the shop remained the same physically, the energy inside had shifted completely. It was no longer just a place of work. It had become a center of inspiration, creativity, and hope for the tailor and those who came to him. Each day began with the familiar rhythm of organizing fabrics, preparing tools, and reviewing the orders he had received. Yet now the tailor had a new responsibility, mentoring a small group of apprentices he had begun to hire. These were young people from his neighborhood, eager to learn the craft, who had shown promise but lacked guidance. The tailor took them under his wing, teaching not only the technical aspects of tailoring but also the values that had always guided him: patience, attention to detail, and the love of doing work properly. He remembered vividly the day he had first agreed to take on an apprentice. The boy had nervously approached the shop, holding a torn jacket that he hoped to have repaired. The tailor saw potential in his careful handling of the fabric and his eagerness to learn. After a conversation about dedication and respect for one's craft, the boy became the tailor's first apprentice. Over time, he and the other apprentices became like a family within the shop, each one learning and growing under the tailor's quiet guidance. Meanwhile, word of the tailor's work continued to spread. The CEO's subtle support combined with the newspaper article and positive word of mouth had created a ripple effect. Local business owners, city officials, and even people from neighboring towns began requesting the tailor's services. Some brought expensive suits, others brought family heirlooms, and a few even commissioned entirely new outfits. The tailor treated each task with the same care, whether it was a minor repair or a major custom order. Every stitch, every fold, every detail mattered. One day, a prominent businesswoman arrived at the shop. She carried an intricate, delicate dress that required careful restoration. The fabric was fine and the patterns complex, demanding skill and precision. The tailor studied the dress carefully, inspecting the seams, the thread, and the fabric. He nodded confidently. "I can restore it," he said. "It will take some time, but I will make sure it is perfect." The woman watched him closely as he worked, amazed by his focus and dedication. Unlike many other tailors she had visited, he treated the dress as if it were the most important item in the world. Hours passed, yet he did not rush. Each stitch was deliberate, each adjustment thoughtful. When he finally returned the dress, the woman's eyes widened in disbelief. "It's perfect," she said softly. "It's as if it was never damaged." The tailor smiled humbly. "I'm glad it meets your expectations," he replied. "Every piece deserves the same care." Such moments became common in the shop, and the tailor's reputation grew. Yet even as his success expanded, he remained grounded. He remembered the quiet days of working alone when every coin mattered, and he drew strength from that memory. He treated every customer with respect, no matter their wealth or status. And he maintained the same humility that had always defined him. The CEO continued to play a subtle but important role in the tailor's journey. He introduced him to designers, business leaders, and clients who valued skill and integrity. Sometimes he would suggest collaboration opportunities. Sometimes he would simply attend a small showcase to support the tailor quietly. These gestures were never boastful. They were simply ways to open doors that might have remained closed. The tailor appreciated the guidance, but he knew that his talent and dedication had carried him to this point. Despite the growing fame and opportunities, the tailor also faced challenges. Managing the increasing number of orders, teaching apprentices, and maintaining quality required long hours and careful planning. He often stayed late into the night, his hands moving tirelessly as he stitched, cut, and folded fabric. There were moments of exhaustion and doubt, when he wondered if he could continue at such a pace without sacrificing quality. Yet each time he looked at the work in progress, he reminded himself why he had chosen this path: the love of his craft and the joy of seeing a piece completed perfectly. One evening, after a particularly long day, the tailor stepped outside for a moment of quiet. The city was alive with light and movement, the streets filled with cars, people, and the hum of life. He reflected on the journey that had brought him here, from a small shop struggling to survive, to a bustling center of creativity and skill. He remembered the first day the CEO had walked into his shop needing a suit repaired. That simple act had set in motion everything that followed. As he walked back into the shop, he noticed one of his apprentices struggling with a complicated seam. The boy looked frustrated, his hands fumbling with the delicate fabric. The tailor approached calmly, kneeling beside him to offer guidance. "Take your time," he said softly. "Focus on the stitch, not the clock. Every piece deserves your attention." Under the tailor's patient instruction, the apprentice corrected the seam and smiled with relief. Moments like this reminded the tailor that his work was not just about clothing. It was about passing on knowledge, nurturing talent, and building a community rooted in respect and care. The following week brought another opportunity. A prestigious fashion magazine had heard of the tailor's work and requested a feature on his shop. They sent photographers and writers to document his process, capturing the quiet dedication with which he worked and the stories of the people who came to him. The tailor was nervous about the attention but agreed, understanding that this could help his apprentices and further elevate the recognition of skilled craftsmanship. During the photo shoot, the tailor demonstrated his techniques, explaining how he measured, cut, and stitched with precision. He shared anecdotes from his life, the lessons he had learned, and the importance of patience and love for one's work. The journalists were captivated not only by his skill, but by his humility and sincerity. The article, when published, praised the tailor for his artistry and integrity, and featured images of him at work, surrounded by fabrics, threads, and tools that had become extensions of his hands. The response was immediate. Orders increased even further, and people traveled from distant towns to have their clothes tailored by the man whose story had inspired so many. The tailor's small shop was bursting at the seams, yet he maintained a sense of calm and purpose. He organized his team, delegated tasks, and ensured that every piece, whether for a local client or a visiting dignitary, received the same meticulous attention. Through it all, the tailor never lost sight of the values that had brought him this far. He celebrated each success quietly, without arrogance or boastfulness. He taught his apprentices that true achievement was not measured by recognition or wealth, but by the care and integrity put into every task. He reminded them that a stitch done poorly or a seam done in haste was a missed opportunity to honor one's work. One day, the CEO visited the shop with a group of investors interested in launching a collaborative project. They were impressed by the tailor's skill, the organization of the shop, and the dedication of his apprentices. After discussing potential opportunities, the CEO turned to the tailor. "You have built something extraordinary," he said. "Your work has value beyond what you may realize. This project could take your talent to new heights." The tailor listened carefully, weighing the offer. He knew that such a project could transform his business, expanding it beyond the city and giving more people access to his work. Yet he also knew that with growth came responsibility to maintain quality, to uphold the standards he had always valued, and to continue nurturing his apprentices. After thoughtful consideration, he agreed. The project began, and the tailor worked closely with the team, ensuring that every design, stitch, and detail reflected the care and dedication that had become his signature. The collaboration brought even more attention to his work, attracting clients from across the region and building a reputation that would endure for years to come. Despite the demands and pressures, the tailor remained grounded. He never lost sight of the joy of creating, the satisfaction of a perfectly stitched seam, and the simple happiness of a client leaving the shop with a smile. He knew that the true measure of his success was not the recognition he received, but the love and care he put into his craft every day. In quiet moments, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a small, struggling shop to a thriving business with apprentices, clients, and collaborators, he had traveled a path shaped by dedication, honesty, and humility. He had been given opportunities, but he had also earned them through years of hard work, patience, and the unwavering belief in the value of doing his best. The tailor's life had transformed, but he remained the same at heart. He continued to wake early, organize his fabrics, and work with his apprentices, treating each day as a chance to create, teach, and inspire. He understood that success was not a destination but a journey, one marked by effort, integrity, and the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. And as the sun set each evening, the tailor had come a long way from the quiet, small shop where he had once worked alone. His life had transformed beyond recognition. The shop was no longer just a place for repairs. It had become a hub of creativity, inspiration, and opportunity. Apprentices worked alongside him. Clients from across the city and beyond sought his skill, and even influential people admired the dedication and care he poured into his craft. Yet despite the transformation, the tailor remained humble. He knew that success was not about wealth or recognition, but about the work itself and the honesty and dedication with which it was done. One bright morning, as the tailor was inspecting the latest batch of orders, a sleek car pulled up outside the shop. The tailor looked up, familiar with the sound, and saw the CEO stepping out as calm and confident as ever. But there was something different in the air that day, a sense of urgency, even excitement. The CEO walked in, his usual warm smile present, but his eyes carried an intensity that immediately drew the tailor's attention. I have something very important to show you, the CEO said, handing over a small envelope. It's about an opportunity and a discovery that could change everything. The tailor's curiosity was piqued. He carefully opened the envelope and found an invitation to a major city event, one attended by the most powerful and influential people. Alongside it was a note from the CEO explaining that this was not just any event. It was an exclusive gathering to recognize contributions in arts, craftsmanship, and community impact. The tailor read the note again, realizing that someone had noticed his work on a level far beyond anything he had imagined. "You're going to be honored," the CEO said softly, "but there's more. Something you should know before you go." The tailor's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" he asked. The CEO gestured for him to follow. He led the tailor to a quiet corner of the shop, away from the bustle of apprentices and clients. "There's something unusual about how this all started," the CEO began. "When I first came to you for my suit, I didn't know that it would lead to this. But I've since learned something that shocked me, and I think it's important for you to know." The tailor listened intently, his heart beating faster. "What is it?" he asked. The CEO smiled, but it was a smile that carried surprise and disbelief. "When I first saw your work, I was impressed, obviously. But I also realized something remarkable. The very fabrics you work with, the ones that look ordinary to most people, come from a designer who has a personal connection to you. The company that produced them, it's owned by someone very close to you, someone you may not have suspected." The tailor blinked in confusion. I don't understand," he said. The CEO leaned in slightly. "The fabrics you've been using for years, the threads, even some of the buttons, they were produced by your own brother's company. He never told you, because he wanted you to succeed on your own merit. He's been watching quietly, seeing your dedication and skill. When I recommended you to others and the orders increased, he was aware and proud. But he also wanted the world to see your talent, not just family connections. That's why you were chosen for this recognition tonight, because your work is exceptional and because you've earned it, not because of anyone else." The tailor's mind raced. He had never suspected that his brother, whom he had lost touch with over the years, had played a quiet role in his life. He had always thought his success was entirely by chance or through the CEO's guidance, yet now he realized that his own family had believed in him even from a distance. The realization brought a mixture of shock, gratitude, and deep emotion. I had no idea," he whispered. "I never knew he was involved in any way." The CEO nodded. "And that's why this moment is so special. Tonight, when you are recognized, know that it's not just your skill being honored. It's your journey, your dedication, your integrity, and yes, the subtle support of someone who believed in you from afar. The world is going to see what I've seen all along, that you are extraordinary." The tailor felt a lump in his throat. He realized that his journey had been shaped not only by his own hard work, but also by the quiet forces of love, belief, and opportunity surrounding him. It was a reminder that even the smallest acts of trust or encouragement could ripple outward, touching lives and changing destinies. That evening, the tailor arrived at the event, escorted by the CEO. The venue was grand, filled with chandeliers, polished floors, and the soft hum of conversation among the city's most influential people. As they entered, the tailor felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He was stepping into a world he had only glimpsed before, a world of recognition, celebration, and achievement. As the ceremony began, the tailor was introduced. The announcer spoke of his humble beginnings, his dedication to his craft, and the extraordinary skill that had brought him to this stage. The crowd listened intently, some nodding in admiration, others whispering in surprise at the tale of a small-town tailor rising to prominence. When the tailor stepped forward to accept the recognition, he felt a surge of emotion. He looked out at the audience, at the faces of people who had supported him, been inspired by him, or had been touched by his work. And then he noticed someone standing quietly at the edge of the stage, his brother. The man's eyes were filled with pride and emotion, a silent acknowledgement of everything the tailor had accomplished. The tailor realized in that moment that the journey had come full circle. The person he had once felt distant from had quietly believed in him, and now he was witnessing the result of that faith. When it was his turn to speak, the tailor stepped to the microphone, his hands shaking slightly but his voice clear. "I am honored," he said softly. I never imagined that the work I love, the craft I dedicate myself to every day, could bring me to this moment. I have learned that success is not just about skill or recognition. It is about dedication, integrity, and the love we put into everything we do. I am grateful to those who believed in me, to those who trusted me, and to those who inspired me to keep going even when the path was difficult. He paused, taking a deep breath, and glanced at his brother and the CEO, both nodding supportively. And finally, I am reminded that sometimes the greatest surprises come from those closest to us. Their quiet support can guide us in ways we never imagined, giving us strength when we need it most. Thank you to everyone who has been part of this journey. I will continue to work with care, humility, and passion, because that is what true craftsmanship demands. The audience erupted into applause. The tailor felt a mix of relief, pride, and deep gratitude. It was a moment that captured the culmination of years of dedication, the reward of patience, and the power of quiet support. He realized that life's greatest surprises often came not from what one sought, but from the recognition, love, and trust of others. After the ceremony, the CEO guided the tailor through the crowd. Influential figures approached, praising his work, asking questions, and even commissioning pieces for their own needs. The tailor responded with humility, treating each conversation as an opportunity to share his craft and inspire others. It was a night of celebration, not only for the recognition he received, but for the journey that had led him there. Back at the shop the next day, life returned to its familiar rhythm, but something had changed. The tailor shop, once small and quiet, now had the buzz of opportunity, growth, and possibility. Apprentices worked alongside him with newfound pride. Clients continued to arrive, and the sense of community and purpose within the shop had grown stronger than ever. Yet despite all the attention and accolades, the tailor remained the same man he had always been, humble, dedicated, and deeply in love with his craft. In the weeks and months that followed, the tailor's reputation continued to grow. He was invited to collaborate with designers, to showcase his work in exhibitions, and to mentor more young apprentices who shared his passion. His life had expanded far beyond the boundaries of the small shop, yet he remained grounded, remembering the days when every coin mattered and when each stitch was a labor of love. The tailor's brother visited more frequently, and the two rebuilt their relationship, connected not only by family but also by shared respect and admiration. The CEO remained a steady presence, quietly supporting, guiding, and celebrating the tailor's journey. Together they had created a network of trust, opportunity, and recognition that elevated not only the tailor, but the community around him. One evening, as the tailor closed the shop and looked around at the bustling space filled with fabric, thread, and the quiet energy of creativity, he felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that life had a way of rewarding dedication, humility, and hard work, sometimes in ways that were unexpected, sometimes in ways that came from the quiet support of others. He thought back to the day the CEO had first walked into the shop, needing a suit repaired. That simple act, small in appearance, had set off a chain of events that had changed everything. And now, standing in the shop he had built, surrounded by the tools and people he loved, he understood the true lesson. Life rewards those who stay true to themselves, who work with care and integrity, and who embrace the unexpected opportunities that come their way. The tailor smiled quietly, a contented, serene smile. He knew that his journey was ongoing, that challenges and opportunities would continue to arise. But he also knew that he had the